Recently, I've been thinking a lot about the workday and what does that mean? Now, I'm someone who spent most of my career in the corporate world, and the explicit expectation was always something based around the 8-hour workday, your 8 to 5, your 9 to 5, whatever it was. The implicit expectation was definitely more than that, but we'll set that aside for the moment. What was interesting is that when I started to work for myself, I actually maintained a very similar schedule. I made a few tweaks because I was never really an early morning person, so I started a bit later, but beyond that, I would still set aside these 8-hour blocks of time. And it wasn't for quite some time that I actually questioned why I was doing that. Because I realized that there were times during the day that I could reliably be much less productive, and there were certain times during the week, in the evening, where I would get these great bursts of energy and excitement, and I would really be able to get things done. So I kind of sat back and asked myself, okay, how possible is it that what I need to get done, what the important things are to do today, is exactly 8 hours every single day? And I think that the statistical answer is probably very close to zero. Because as leaders, our job is really to manage our energy more than it is to manage our time. And it's our responsibility to our organizations, to our employees, and to ourselves to manage our physical, our mental, and our emotional energy. So there might be a difference if you are an ER doctor or someone who is working in production or in a service industry that requires coverage over hours. But for the average leader, this 8-hour workday thing doesn't make a lot of sense. So my question to you is, what would happen if you set aside the idea of the 8-hour workday? And I understand that depending on your situation, you may have more or less control over how it is that you work and when it is that you work. But I'm willing to believe, regardless of your circumstance, that there are some levers that you can pull, that there are some shifts that you can make. Whether that is starting a little bit later, a little bit earlier, scheduling in a break, or just dedicating the time where you know you're at your most productive to those things that are the most important. So I'd like you to think about it. If you are thinking about your own schedule, what would change if you set aside this notion of the 8-hour workday as the basis to the way you spend your time? And as a leader, what would happen if you shifted your belief from the 8-hour workday and applied something differently to your employees? I'm curious to know what would change. Let me know in the comments.